Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger, helping you whip your business into shape. Today, I have with me Rodrigo Sepulveda. Now, I met Rodrigo when I was in Phoenix for a super secret network marketing pre-launch meeting, which we can now talk about. But at the time, we both showed up under NDAs. We were not allowed to say anything. But now, through our connection in Phoenix at this event, and now through subsequent conversations, I was like, Rodrigo, we got to get you on the show and have this conversation. So let me tell you what made me want to bring Rodrigo on the show. Now, he considers himself to be a culture hacker. Rodrigo is passionate about bringing out the best in people, and he says, the world is my playground. I'm a frequent traveler, a student of mindset, alchemy, and quantum physics. And he loves making new friends, which means, of course, we had a great time. He does have a history in network marketing and direct sales, so we will be discussing that as well. Rodrigo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jennie. I was thinking you were going to introduce somebody else when you said all that.
Well, I just went off of what you told me you wanted me to say about you. So this is your history and, this is the energy of why I wanted you on the show, right?
That's amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I am too, because we had some really cool conversations when we met one-on-one after meeting in Phoenix, because you and I are both believers. The universe does not bring people together on accident. There's always a reason we may not know, but if nothing else, you and I became very fast friends.
Yes, that was a very interesting acquaintance. I remember we were at the pool and there was a bunch of us and we just started talking, you and I, and it was a lot of fun. And you said, I have to connect with Jennie. I didn't know you had a podcast back then, but it was just such a click then that it felt right,
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dig in, because I hinted at the fact that you do have a history in network marketing, direct sales, MLM,
Yes.
And in fact, you've been with a few different companies, which is nice because you have the perspective of having built multiple successful organizations through that. But what originally got you started in network marketing? How did you get introduced to the industry?
That's actually a very funny story.
Oh, good.
So I started doing Tony Robbins seminars a long time ago. Like I'm talking about early 2000.
Okay.
And everybody wanted to invite me to different deals because I was always in the trainers part of the group, and I was doing training and I was crewing, and I made a lot of friends from all over the world back then. And so I got invited to Herbalife and it's any company you can imagine. And then I never had any intention to do it. I wasn't aware of the potential in network marketing. I really didn't know anything about it. A few years later, an aunt that I respect a lot gave me a gift. And the gift was the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was going to college and I started reading Kiyosaki, and I finished Kiyosaki's book like in 2 weeks, like the first one and then the second one. And I remember the second book, he talked about network marketing with the cash flow quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was like, well, this is interesting. It might be a good sales school. I mean, I'm not very good at sales. So I was like, I might do it at some point because I want to become a better salesman.
Okay.
And he said that it was the best education you could get out there. So anyhow, a friend of mine that came to I was giving some seminars. I was doing coaching and doing trainings for medium-sized audiences back in the day. And a friend came to an event and he told me he was going to go to an event of an MLM company. it was called Sango at the time, that company. And I said, oh, I want to go. I heard about it. I want to go. I want to go and see it. So he invited me. I went to the event, drank a lot of juice. They had a juice product, but and but I didn't sign up. I was like, oh, this is cool, but I was very focused on my coaching and consulting business. And so 3 months later, somehow I was about to close a very big deal, and I realized that it wasn't going to close. So I had already made a decision previously that I didn't want to be an entrepreneur all my life. I didn't want to be an employee. And I thought to myself, if this collapses, I'll need to go find a job, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to call my friend Javier here and tell him to sign me up in this juice deal, and maybe I'll make some money. At least I'm going to learn how to sell, And that was my frame of my mindset. So he signed me up. He came to I live pretty far away in the west of Mexico City. So he came all the way. He had never been to my neighborhood. And he signed me up. And long story short, it took me 3 months to sign up my first distributor. I was really bad, It was one of those stories.
It took me 5 months.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
5 months. I could sell the product, but I could not sponsor my way out of a wet paper bag.
Yeah. I couldn't sell a product. I couldn't sponsor anyone. I was really, really, really bad. I was just frustrated because my mind was thinking, oh, I'm learning how to sell, This is very interesting. I'm learning it, So I brainwashed myself into believing that I was succeeding, learning something,
Yeah.
I wasn't frustrated because anybody was signing up. I invited 100 friends, so I don't know how many people went to the home meetings, but nobody would sign up until one day something really strange happened. So there was a friend of mine, Crossline, and we were at this our upline house, and we went into the kitchen, and I started mentoring him how to do the business. And I started like very, very intense, almost screaming and telling him what to do. You have to do this. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm talking to myself. I'm just looking at myself in the mirror. And then I realized, oh, this is not a game. This can actually change the world. This business model can change people's lives, and it can be phenomenal. And that was the day when everything clicked. That was the beginning of a huge journey, and it has been amazing. It's totally transformed my life in many different ways.
Oh, that is so amazing. So you started with one company, and as you clicked and brought that through, in that first company, is that where you made your first 6 figures, or was that through the evolution of moving to another company and finding new support, new training, what did your journey to your first your first annual 6 figures look like?
That's an amazing question. See, for me, I never considered the option of quitting that business. And I think that was the key to my success. But it took me a while. I remember everybody in my family thought I was crazy, except my mom, that she's always been my biggest supporter in everything that I do.
Aww.
But my dad was very concerned. He was like, oh my dad is a guy that he passed away in 2010, but he used to have PhD, 2 master's degrees. He used to be called by the president of Mexico to give him advice, international stuff. So I was brought into, nobody in my family really was an entrepreneur, I was, my mom is in banking, my dad in politics. So my dad was really concerned. And I remember I wasn't making any money. I spent 2 years, and my maximum check was like $600, $700 in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And then we used to have a place in Puerto Vallarta. We still have a place in Puerto Vallarta, but this was a different one. And we went for the holidays. And back a couple of months before that, I changed my paying method from the company to pay me into the debit card of the company. But they had to ship it to Mexico, so it took 3 months to get to Mexico. So I didn't have any money, and I was full-time on my business back then. It had been 2 years. So I had to ask money to my dad to lend me to go to the trip. I invited a friend that was very depressed. And my life just sucked, It was very bad at the moment. I just felt like off, And I remember I used to go like jogging in the morning or in sunset. And there was this time when I just went running in the beach, and I started yelling. I'm a premier. Was the rank, like the biggest rank, and the rank that I want to achieve? I'm this, and I'm making thousands of dollars, and I just started affirming myself the reality I wanted to build. And something, I don't know what happened, but changed. A couple of weeks later, I got invited to take a look at the methodology, a system that an upline, like 5 or 6 or 7 levels up, created. And I was going to be the guy that I wanted to do something. I was looking for mentorship. I didn't have any mentors because nobody in my upline really knew what they were doing. They were pretty new. And they thought they knew because they had achieved like that the initial success with the company, when the momentum started. But the company was already 3 to 4 years old in the region in Mexico. So there wasn't that momentum like in the beginning anymore. And they thought they were professional networkers, but they were not. They had no idea. So I started looking upwards in the network, and they didn't get along with this leader that she knew what she was doing. They had a fight in the beginning. So I went and looked for her because she was the biggest rank in the company in Mexico. And I asked her to mentor me, and I was so hungry. Literally, I had that company morning, at lunch. I ate, and at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I only spoke about the business. And I would travel all over the place, and I didn't have anybody with experience. I was just building with kids from college and from friends of mine and people around me, and some family, my mom, my sister, But no, we didn't know how to do it. We had no idea. But I was so hungry that I looked for mentorship. And then 2 years after starting, I thought my business was going to collapse, but I didn't let it collapse. If I lost a leg, I would go and build another one. And when I started working with this person, everything changed because I had access to someone that knew what she was doing. And in literally 6 months, I hit 6 figures, 5 figures a month back then. In 5 months after that, from 2 years, like I remember back in the day, like the average check of the next rank, because you have to qualify by structure and by volume, wasn't something easy. I was stuck at a level called 5K, but I had like 20K volume since I was a 5K. And then I started working with this lady, and I went all the way to my volume to 120K. But I didn't hit the rank because I needed the structure. When I finally hit the structure, I made that month 5 figures because volume was huge, right?
Right.
But then my structure was so solid that I kept growing and growing and growing, and literally was momentum. And I had thousands and thousands of people in my team. I was doing over 200K in volume in less than a year,
Right.
So it was fascinating because the type of building method that my mentor used to use, she was in Amway for a long time. So it was seminar every month, home meetings. There was no Zoom meetings back then. It was
all done in person. Yeah, no, I mean, that's how my business was built, because from 2010 to 2017, when I was with the jewelry company, I was one of the pioneers in my organization to start having video conference meetings. Now, I wasn't doing parties that way, but I was doing meetings and trainings because I had team members all over the United States. Right. So, and I figured if I could get them on video rather than a phone conference, I'd get more of their attention, and it worked.
Yeah, of course. Well, back in the day where I was building that company, my mentor created a system, and she started renting houses around Mexico, literally.
Oh,
putting meetings in those houses, and the neighbors were angry because we had hundreds of cars every night outside in the street, in like a home neighborhood. So it was amazing, but it was a little bit of a disaster at the same time, because it was so much growth. At some point, we had like 4 different houses rented in Mexico City exclusively for home meetings, because we would do a lot of, like, okay, you can only invite 3 people and nobody else, it's by invitation only. We put a lot of that pressure into our way of building it, and it worked. It was fun. It was, but definitely it was very rudimentary. So if that makes any sense.
Right. No, and it really does. But some of the things that popped up for me as you were telling the story was, first of all, the first piece of advice, if they missed it, because I don't want to fly past it, I want to go back to this. You never gave yourself the option to quit.
Right.
Right? It
Yes.
was, you were committed. You were all in.
Yes.
That's the first thing that popped out for me, because I have been teaching that for 7 years in my coaching practice. And of course, taught it for longer than that to my team. Like, guys, you're in or you're out. If you do partial work, you get partial results, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're going to do this, right?
Let me share something here. And I think you're touching in a very important place. There's a very important thing to say here. So I wasn't going to quit. That was a decision, but it was because I had a track record of quitting in certain things.
Oh,
so when I started
you and me both, sir. You and me both. You are not alone.
Yeah, I went when I was in high school. My parents sent me to this very, very amazing, exclusive university high school in the U.S. I was there for 2 years, and I decided to come back, and it was the biggest mistake back then. It was changed the course of my life because this was probably one of the best schools in the world. And when I came back, I realized that it wasn't that cool here in Mexico. You know, that the school that I was in, I was playing polo every afternoon. I was flying airplanes. It was amazing. You know, it was a military school, but so you had a lot of discipline, but that had a real reward. And when I came back and I tried to go back to that school, they didn't admit me 6 months after because my grades weren't that good, and I was just a teenager. So I brought that baggage with me for a couple of years, all the way to university, and I had a lot of things that I quit doing. When I saw this business, I said to myself, I'm going to do this. And I immediately took the role of a leader. So I changed my self-concept, the self-concept of myself to a leader. And I saw myself as the one who was going to make it happen. I wasn't expecting my upline to do it for me. I wasn't expecting anybody to build my business for me. I passed my upline and his uplines, and I had a bigger rank than them for a long time because I was the one that took the position of leadership and the one that was going to do this.
Yeah.
So, and people thought I was crazy, honestly, because I had no rank. I had very little business experience. I was just coming out of college. I had a coaching business, if you can maybe call it a business. It wasn't really a business. It was something I gave seminars every now and then. I have a couple of clients, but I wasn't a businessman back then, you know? But I believed that I was. So I didn't have any check in rank, and I would go and fly to a different city and meet with business people, and I would talk to them like I was having a 5-figure check. I wasn't telling any lies, but that my posture was so, I wasn't engaged. How do you say this? I was just embracing that character so much that people thought I was there, and people believed in me, you know?
Yeah.
And that was the whole reason that business worked, because I had everything against me, but not one time I put that option in my plate. I never thought I was going to quit. I decided I wasn't going to quit. I was going to make it happen.
Right.
And it wasn't an easy build. It was one of the most complicated things I've ever gone through. And even when I qualified the highest rank, I was one of the 5 top checks in Mexico. I had a strong 6-figure check. And then my dad got sick and he passed away in 8 months. But I was building, and I had to go through this process, and it changed my perspective because I was always someone that my parents would help me and support me, and I had the chance to be there for my dad financially and emotionally. And it wasn't something easy, you know. It was very, very tough, you know. It's one of those experiences that really shaped my character and made me strong. I believe that sometimes we want it very easy, and that the answer is not easier. It's for us to become stronger and to be able to teach ourselves to go into difficult situations so we can conquer.
Oh, I like that. Because, I mean, going back to the beginning of your story, this all ties right back in, which was when you were at your lowest point, you went out and went for that run and started putting out into the universe what you wanted, and you did it with so much energy that you were yelling it. It wasn't just, I'm going to whisper it real quiet, like I'm going to be a premier diamond, blah, blah, blah. It was, I'm going to do it,
Right.
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 And I
Absolutely.
think that energy of that played into,
Yes.
what you were able to then do, which was, okay, my current leadership isn't working. Now I'm going to go seek someone who knows what they're doing. So you went and sought mentorship from someone who was doing what you wanted to achieve.
Right.
And I think that is key, is picking the right mentor.
Yes. And I brainwashed myself into believing that I was going to become that person. And that was key, because literally I brainwashed myself. I was looking at the Premier Diamonds videos all the time. I was just living that experience and feeling it, which I know now that is a crucial part of the process. I was experiencing that moment in the present. I believe one of the key things that I teach to my coaches and the people that I train is that there's no separation between you and who you want to become. The only thing that we make our success conditional from achieving a goal. So in other words, you want to achieve something in order to allow yourself to feel a certain way, and that never works long term. You have to experience that in the present moment and connect emotionally with that same level of experience, of awareness. And by being in tune and being in the same channel, you basically attract that possibility because you're already there emotionally. I don't know if it makes any sense.
No, it does. It does. And it's so funny that you're talking about this, because I just was looking through my Facebook memories a few days ago, and I had shared something back in, I don't know, 2016. So many, many, many years ago, right? Before I was a coach, before I was doing any of this. And it was talking, and in the video, the gentleman was talking about how the version of us that we want to be already exists. Right. And that's what you're saying, right? That's successful, right? And I'm putting air quotes around that for those of you who can't see me, because you can't. But the successful version of us already exists.
Absolutely.
Because if we've already conceived of who that person is in our mind, we now know what that person looks like, what they feel like, what they do. And if we can then now say, okay, here's that version of Jennie.
Yeah.
She exists. So now I just step into doing what that version of Jennie does, and suddenly I am her in the present.
Because whatever you can imagine, it already exists, and it's not something in your imagination. It's the place. Whatever you can vision it's already there. And you're tapping into a different frequency while you're imagining this. So that means that you're imagining it's a place that already exists in the fifth dimension. So this is one of the things that I have been studying for the last 5 years, and it's incredible. You can actually quantum jump yourself into that possibility, but you have to understand not to live from the outside in, but to live from the inside out.
Ooh, what do you mean by that? Oh, let's go there.
You have to master your emotions. And one of my mentors taught me to see emotions like I see a stop signal. Most of our emotions are either green or red, right? So, but we're not aware of our emotions. On a daily basis, you might experience anxiety, fear, rejection. Those are red emotions, but there are also green emotions like certainty, courage, play. You know? And many times you want to build a business from a place of fear or a place of certainty, where if you go deep into the emotions of an entrepreneur, the emotion that predominates is play and courage, which are the opposite of fear. So you can't be running a marathon looking at your feet, or 100-meter race looking at your feet, because you're going to fall. There's no way you're going to win.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. If you're experiencing reds and you're not aware of your reds, you will go all over the place. And there's nothing wrong with go to some red sometimes, because we're humans and we experience all of these emotions. But the thing is that we tend to go to those emotions and get stuck there trying to figure out with our logical mind, which is not the one in control, it's your emotional mind, what to do, when what you have to do is connect with your green version of yourself and experience the emotions in green, and from there take action and bridge it. Does it make sense?
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, that's huge. That's huge. And I can already feel there's a portion of my audience that they're trying to grasp this. And there's a few of us who are like, okay, got it. So, I mean, we can't talk forever, but I do want to ask, are there certain things that you recommend people do to help them get in touch with their emotional side? Is there something that people can do to get there so that way they can begin making decisions from that version of themselves? Because like you said, if we're running our current daily program.
Right. So you have to interrupt the pattern.
Okay.
And the way to do that is either with using your physiology, through the questions you ask, and the language patterns. In alchemy and magic, they call this process gnosis, which is basically a process when you interrupt the logical mind and you stop questioning. And you can do it with a wide variety of ways. Most of them include a physiological change. You can go and take a cold plunge. You can go and do breathing exercises. You can go and, I mean, there's hundreds of different ways. I do meditation all the time. I do breath works in meditation.
Okay.
I teach my students and my clients to go deep into altered states of mind, to be able to enter into a theta wave, where basically there's no mind and they can focus on whatever they want and whatever they want to experience. But if you're in your logical mind, you're in alpha, and the brain, in beta, which is the awake state, and your brain is all over the place. It can't focus. So that's why a lot of people talk about quieting the mind. The thing is that most of the time you can't quiet the mind, because the mind and the logical mind is in control. You have to silence it a little bit and do something extreme to change and to go out of your body, in a metaphorical way, so to speak.
Right.
So then you can actually focus on one thing and take massive action and enter into a flow state, which is crucial for building an organization.
Oh.
So this is what it changed. I mean, all of this, I didn't realize this on the first day. It has been a process of years.
Yeah,
now that I'm more into the coaching and training space, what I do is I help my clients really tap into their inner resource, because the answers is not, I'm going to build this offer or this, and okay, I help network marketings do this, or I help people get more money. Yeah, that's a two-dimensional thinking. You are way much more than that. But the problem is we're trying to put ourselves into a box.
Yeah.
And it's not about being into a box. You have to realize you're way bigger than a box. You have 3 or 4 or 5 dimensions. Who knows how many, right?
Yeah.
When you're able to enter into that sacred space in your heart and mind, connecting those two, you're able to create way more than you're allowing yourself to do. And I can tell you in my own experience, it just creates miracles. I can't say any other word, because it creates miracles. You transform yourself, literally. You don't only get results like, okay, I'm going to sponsor 5 people this month. That's peanuts, That's the first step. You start sponsoring more people, but you don't even care about sponsoring people, because you care about sharing your vision, and you're so engaged, and you have so much conviction in yourself, and you have transformed your self-image so much that you start attracting the right people. The same way you and I are in this call today. There were 30 people at the pool that day, and why did we end up talking, you and I? It's no coincidence. There's no coincidence in the universe. Everything is happening because it has to match the frequency.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. There was definitely there's definitely moth to a flame energy,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
In that conversation, because I was talking to other people, you were talking to other people, and then all of a sudden we were talking, right? It's,
Right.
we found that way through listening to other people's conversations and what was going on around us and going, wait, he's talking about something interesting. Let's
Mm.
go over there. Right. And so I think that's absolutely true, because interestingly enough, when I was stepping back from my Park Lane jewelry business so I could go full-time coaching, I believe that there was a combination of two things happening. First of all, yes, I had stepped into my calling, my purpose, where I knew I was supposed to go. And so that started attracting people to me. But at the same time, it also felt like the universe was testing me, because then I had 2 or 3 people reach out to me and go, okay, I'm ready to start my Park Lane business. I don't know how to tell you that, right? Because I wasn't in the business anymore, but they wanted to work with me. And I was like, well, if you want to start, I can get you started with somebody, but I'm not working the business because I'm meant to be in this other space, right? And so it felt a little bit like the universe was going, let's see, is she
Right.
really committed?
Absolutely.
Is what it felt a little bit like. So it's super interesting. So
Yeah,
I
and something I would add to that, and it's
uh
interesting. We live in a society which we have taught ourselves to believe that it's okay to be in a microwave society where we don't have any challenges, where everything has to be, oh, I imagine this, and immediately it's going to manifest, and it's not that way.
no.
And what makes us powerful is to understand the journey
Um,
and the process and the perfection of the obstacles. I don't know if you're aware of this or you know this, but the Navy SEALs have this training where they literally they plug them into some capsules with very little oxygen, and they have to manage to solve issues there. And they do this in order for them to become tough and to be able to go to war and really,
right.
uh,
Yeah.
perform the way they're supposed to perform in very, very difficult environments.
Yeah.
And so the way I see it now, of course, if there is something that doesn't resonate with my soul, I immediately pause and
Well,
ask myself questions to validate what I'm feeling. I don't ignore my feelings, I don't ignore my intuition. But
right.
that doesn't mean I react to whatever is tough in the process. Because I know that process that I have to go through has to make me grow. And my only focus is, who do I want to become using
Um,
this vehicle, network marketing, traditional business, whatever I'm doing,
right.
as a tool to make me grow. And in network marketing, that happens to have a huge influence on your team and on your clients and the whole company or the industry, right?
Right. Right. No, absolutely. And I think that my brain is trying to go in so many different directions right now. But I think
Me too.
this ultimately goes back to, yeah, that connecting with your inner self, connecting with that emotional self, that emotional, like you said, the emotional brain, right? And understanding that, because uh, I don't know how many other people are like me, but I feel like when I'm around others, I can read other people's emotions very quickly and easily. But then if you ask me, like my coach, so one of the coaches I've been working with, I've been with her for 7 years. Okay. I meet with her at least once a week. And during our group coaching call, I know how she starts and ends every call, which is, give me 2 words to describe where you are now, like emotionally, like whatever that is. And yet I go into that call every single week going, how do I feel? Like, I don't know. Right?
Mm.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this is where I am right now. And then by the end of the call, I've got, words for that. But there's some weeks that I go into that call and I'm like, she asked the question as if I've never heard it before. I've heard it 752 times. you know,
I love it.
and it's like, oh yeah. This obviously is some work. that the universe is
Right.
telling me, okay, it's time for you to do this for yourself, because I've been trying to tell you for 7 years, every single week, figure yourself out.
Right. Yeah. And this is something that it's very interesting, I believe, because it's easier to read outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we have to read ourselves, that involves a different level of ownership. And what I mean for this is not that we don't take ownership in our lives, but there are certain areas in our lives we don't think we can take ownership. So we give our power away. Let me give an example.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm building a funnel and I'm in network marketing, right? I've never done this and I'm so overwhelmed about copywriting and this and that, and it's so difficult, and I have no idea what I have to do. And everything that I just told you about how I created this character in network marketing, it literally is not there when I'm building my funnel or my Facebook page or whatever,
Yeah.
because I'm not embracing that character.
Yeah.
But if I did embrace that character when I have a challenge, this archetype, the leader, it's an archetype. It's there all the time. It's not only there for network marketing. The thing is, I just use it for network marketing, or I just use it for my job, my regular job, not 9 to 5 job, or I just use it for it. But if I were to use that archetype in my network marketing business, or in my funnel, or and allowing myself and really testing myself to use this archetype in different tough scenarios,
Yeah.
well, that's where the magic happens,
Yes.
right?
Oh yeah.
Makes
No,
sense?
oh yeah, no, I agree, because one of my clients was listening to one of my previous episodes, and I can't remember who the guest is, but one of the things we talked about, oh wait, no, I know, I remember who it was. It was Tara Wagner.
Mhm.
And we talked about having CEO time in
Mhm.
our business and our life, where we do the CEO big vision things. Like, what's the big vision? What are the things that need to be done to achieve that business, right? So it's kind of stepping out and taking that step away from yourself and removing yourself from the emotional, like, oh my gosh, I have to build the funnel. No, it's just, okay, CEO says these things need to be done. Now,
Mhm.
switch hats, because we are in a business by ourselves, right?
Right.
Right? So now switch the hat to okay, so now I'm the funnel builder hat. So what's the first step? And just taking it one step at a time. And when she started doing that, her business started taking off, because she was able
Right.
to say, here's the vision. And she
Mhm.
was stepped back from that, because sometimes when people, and I'm going to put air quotes around this, create the vision, they allow themselves to feel anxiety instead of excitement around it, because they're like, oh, it's so big. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that.
No, and actually, if it's that, you're. I realize now that you're starting from the wrong place,
Yeah.
because it's a red, and every time you take a decision or you start something from a red, like FOMO, fear of missing out, you can't sustain that in the long term.
Agreed.
You'll probably run and you'll grow a lot, but then something will happen and you'll probably collapse, because the reds help you to like move. You have to move your body. Okay, let's go. But
Yeah.
it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even now, like if I have a coaching prospect and they're evaluating if this is the right thing for them, I always tell them, if you're in a red about this, don't do it, because it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I have zero FOMO. I have zero fear of missing out. If somebody calls me and this opportunity is going to be amazing and you're going to be the first in your country, not interested.
Okay.
And there was a point, and I know this will take forever, but maybe at another call or something, if you invite me again,
Yeah. Oh,
we'll talk about
100%.
it.
Oh, this has been so good. I mean, and this is something, that my regular listeners have heard me say somewhat frequently, but if this is somebody's first time, this is going to be their first time hearing this. you were meant to hear this episode for a reason.
Right.
There's something that you were meant to hear because the universe said, this is what you need to achieve that thing you told me you wanted. I'm giving, this is, as my friend Phil and I just said on a recent episode, this is the person who was in a flood and kept praying to God, please come rescue me. And somebody came by in a big truck and said, hey, we can come get you. And he said, nope, God's going to take care of me. And the flood waters kept rising and someone came by in a little rowboat. Come with us. And he said, nope, God's going to rescue. Flood waters kept rising. Somebody came by in a bigger boat. Come on by. Well, come with us. Nope, God's going to rescue me. And then he drowned. And he said, God, you didn't come rescue me. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I sent you a truck, a rowboat, and a boat. Right?
Yeah.
So the listener, the badass listener right now, they were meant to hear something in this. And honestly, if at this point, if you, and I'm speaking to you, the listener, okay? So I don't know your name, but I'm talking to you right now on behalf of the universe. If you haven't had an aha light bulb moment, go back and listen again, because some people go, oh, it's that woo-woo stuff. Yes, and you were meant to hear it. Whether it's woo-woo works, right? Whether it's God, angel, spirit guides, whatever, you were meant to hear this because there's something that was meant for you. And I definitely want to have you back so we can talk about more of the stories and the different ways that you help people with success, because I think that's important for people to hear. But we don't have all day, and neither does the listener. So you do have a wonderful gift for our listeners if they are interested in exploring this further. And you have a guide that is called the Quantum Alchemist Mindset. I am so excited about this. I want to see it myself. So first of all, what is the Quantum Alchemist Mindset Guide?
Let me tell you about it. So about a year and a half ago, I experienced one of these quantum leaps myself.
Whoa.
So I've been in personal growth for all my life. I gone to Tony Robbins, studied with Bob Proctor, you name it. I had hundreds and thousands of dollars investment in my growth. But there was a point, 2021, when my life went into a deep hole. I got sick. I was experiencing a big depression, and I felt lost. And I had to quiet myself and go deep inside to start searching for answers. And I started meditating. I started working on myself deeply, more spiritually than in my mind. And I started learning a lot about this mind spirit connection works, about how your emotions really connect you. And I started going deep into this journey, into things like spirituality, religion. I had the chance to travel all over the world. I didn't talk about this in this episode, but I've been literally my passport is like a Monopoly passport. It's funny. It's even funny because it's
but all different colors and colors and sizes of stamps.
My mom took us in a trip around the world when I was like 15, and to all religious spiritual places. I slept in Mount Tabor in Israel. I slept in Gethsemane for a week. I spent 4 days in Ascendo in Japan,
Wow.
And I learned spirituality, and everything came together in 2021. And I started to connect the dots between spirituality, quantum physics, mindset. I started even magic, I started connecting and understanding a lot of these things. And I just put a guide together because I just wanted to serve. And a lot of people loved it. So I translated it into Spanish. I wrote it in English. I translated it into Spanish. And it's only that, it can help you just tap into your inner resources, and it can serve you grow. I'm happy to share with you. and anyone
That's
can help anybody in this podcast. I love it.
That's amazing. And I so appreciate that. So if you guys want the guide for Quantum Alchemist Mindset, all you have to do is send a direct message to Rodrigo. So in the show notes, so if you go to the show notes, so my regular listeners know how to get to the show notes because they've been there, they've done that, they know, go to the show notes, grab or connect with Rodrigo either on Facebook or Instagram, and you can send him a message and say, hey, I want the Quantum Alchemist Mindset Guide that you talked about on Badass Direct Sales Mastery, and he's going to send it to you. Now, if you are a brand new listener, this is the very first time you've ever listened to Badass Direct Sales Mastery. To get to the show notes or episode notes, all you have to do is pick up your phone, click on the episode, scroll under Rodrigo's picture, and you will see all kinds of notes. Scroll down to like the middle, and you will see the connection, the social media connections for Rodrigo. They will be direct links that you can connect directly. You'll know you're going to the right spot to be able to connect with Rodrigo on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. Pick your favorite and go connect with him there. So he and I are connected on Facebook. I'm more of a Facebook girl. So that's where he and I connected. So Rodrigo, this has been amazing. We definitely have to have you back.
This is amazing. Jennie, thank you for having me. It's been such enlightening to talk to you. It's so much fun, you know?
Oh.
You have to come visit in Mexico. You must.
Oh, darn. Okay.
I know you're a foodie as well, so I'll take you to beautiful places.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've not been to Mexico City. I've just been to Cancun and Cozumel.
You have to come. You have to come. Mexico City is beautiful. It's an amazing city.
I can't wait.
A great place to visit.
I can't wait. We'll do that for sure. So, and of course, badass crew, you know how this goes. Stay tuned because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.